Welcome to TPM Vid's Disney Beat, where we talk about all things Disney. If you're new to the channel and like what you see, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. This is the original concept art for Epcot's multi-year transformation. It was planned to be one of the biggest and most transformative construction projects at Walt Disney World.
We began to envision what will be the biggest transformation of any park we've ever accomplished. Now, it's going to continue to build on Epcot's celebration of creativity and ingenuity.
In reality, Epcot's multi-year transformation has been a huge multi-year mess. A lot of rides and attractions were met with unfortunate circumstances and they suffered tragic fates. So this is their story. The multi-year transformation of Epcot was officially announced at D23 in July of 2017.
We want to keep it true to the original vision while making it more timeless, more relevant, more family, and more Disney.
At the Expo, Disney announced a brand new space restaurant that would be built next to Mission Space, and a Guardians of the Galaxy ride would be replacing Universe of Energy.
We think this epitomizes our goals for Epcot in a way that stays true to the original ideals.
Official details on the ride were sparse, but it was set to follow an Epcot-esque story, and it was rumored to be a roller coaster. This would be a first for Epcot. Then it was also announced that the Ratatouille ride from Disneyland Paris would find a home in a brand new expansion of the France Pavilion.
Fantastique!
Epcot was now the most neglected park at Walt Disney World, so these new attractions would fill it with a fresh, revitalized energy. Plus, the best part was that there was still more to come.
So I promise you, this is just a glimpse of what we have planned for World Showcase. This really is just the tip of the iceberg of what we've got in store for Epcot. Transforming that special park in preparation for Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary is going to be a very big priority for us.
In August of 2017, Disney closed Universe of Energy and work quickly began on the new Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Then shortly after in September, construction started on the Ratatouille ride in World Showcase. There was a lot of excitement in the air. Disney did not miss a beat, since there was only 4 years until Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. As time went on, more details were slowly shared about the plans for Epcot's transformation. In 2018, it was announced that Reflections of Earth would be replaced by a brand new nighttime spectacular set to debut in 2020. Then in February of 2019, a new entry plaza was announced, as well as a first-of-its-kind Play Pavilion. It was set to take over the former Wonders of Life Pavilion, which had been used seasonally as the park's festival center. The press release said this unnamed pavilion would be unlike anything we've ever seen at the park. The new space would be devoted to playful fun and would feature an innovative city that'll come to life under the dome. The concept art was bold, and the pavilion took visual cues from Ralph Breaks the Internet. It was another exciting project that was planned to be open in time for Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. So, less than 2 months after the announcement, Disney filed a permit to begin demolition work of the interior of Wonders of Life. They were ready to take this building into the 21st century. At this point in 2019, there are now 4 ongoing construction projects at Epcot: the Space 220 restaurant, Guardians of the Galaxy, the Ratatouille ride, and the Play Pavilion. The park was evolving, and all these new attractions really echoed the new mantra for Epcot.
It's also more timeless, more relevant, more family, more Disney.
In August of 2019, the complete plan for Epcot's transformation was revealed at D23, including even more new projects. There was a Mary Poppins attraction for the UK Pavilion, a massive reimagining of Spaceship Earth, plus a multi-level festival center that would be built along with an exploration trail called Journey of Water inspired by Moana. Then there were new details revealed for already announced projects. This included the Space 220 restaurant set to open now in winter of 2019, and that Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind would also be opened by Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. The new ride would be a storytelling coaster and would include the first reverse launch on a Disney coaster. Plus, there were new details for the Play Pavilion. This interactive metropolis would allow guests to discover a city bursting with games, activities, and other experiences. It would feature an Edna Mode Animation Academy type attraction, live entertainment, interactive games, and meet and greets with some of our favorite Disney characters both virtually and in person. Everything about the Play Pavilion was very hands-on, and it was something the entire family could enjoy. It would definitely balance out the more thrilling attractions on the east side of what was then Future World. The future of Epcot was looking bright. With rough timelines now set for many attractions, which now included a summer of 2020 opening for Remy's Ratatouille adventure, there was a lot to be excited about. Visible construction was happening all around Epcot, but the only project that held a bit of mystery was the Play Pavilion.
Welcome to the digital city, where playing is a way of life. Here we go!
In September, Disney filed a permit to fabricate and install show set pieces for the Play Pavilion, but with Disney not providing any updates, there was no way to track progress. We could assume things were on schedule, but rumors were already circulating that the Space 220 restaurant next door was delayed. Apparently, a large piece of glass shattered, and it would be weeks until a new piece would be sent in. Now, this was the first project in Epcot's transformation that was scheduled to be completed, but now it would not be meeting the original 2019 opening. Disney failed at delivering this project on time. It was clear Space 220 would now open in 2020. You could say it was a little hiccup, but who would have known that this first major delay would foreshadow what was to come for Epcot's transformation?
Breaking news just coming into the News 6 newsroom tonight. Walt Disney World is closing all 4 of its theme parks and its water parks in Orlando starting Sunday night due to concerns about the coronavirus.
This call by Disney and the other theme parks that followed suit was a billion-dollar decision.
These were truly unprecedented times. No one ever expected the world to completely shut down. All construction at the theme parks was temporarily stopped, but as COVID-19 cases began to surge, it became quickly apparent that the initial 2-week closure would be indefinite. No one knew how long this would go on for, and Disney had to tighten their financial belts. It was decided projects that were substantially along, like Space 220, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, and Cosmic Rewind, would continue, but those that weren't would be paused and defunded. Unfortunately, it was rumored that the Play Pavilion fell victim to this decision. When Walt Disney World reopened in July of 2020, construction at the parks resumed, but at a much slower pace. Before the shutdown, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure was only a few months away from being fully complete, since it was originally set to open summer of 2020. It made sense for Disney to put most of their efforts into completing this ride first, but fans were curious about the fate of the Play Pavilion. Over at the Odyssey and the Epcot preview presentation, Disney completely removed the Spaceship Earth overhaul and the Mary Poppins segments, but they still kept in the Play Pavilion. Maybe it was still on the table. After all, there was a half-finished attraction inside the Gold Dome. But in the wake of COVID precautions, the Play Pavilion was not a COVID-safe attraction. It was a very hands-on and interactive experience, which was a huge problem for Disney. This was a time when there were still so many restrictions in place. Not even outdoor playgrounds were open yet. Construction walls still promoted the Play Pavilion, but Disney was very quiet about the project. It turned out that behind the scenes, they were trying to decide what to do with it while they actively worked on the other projects at the park. As Remy's Ratatouille Adventure neared completion, Disney announced it would now be opening in 2021. The delay made sense since construction was moving at a slower pace, but in a teaser posted at the end of December of 2020, people were speculating that the ride looked fully complete. And you know what? The speculation was right. Remy's Ratatouille Adventure was practically completed by the end of 2020, and in January of 2021, Disney even began training cast members on the ride. By the beginning of March, they were fully trained and ready to go, so it wasn't long before rumors began circulating that the ride could be opening soon. It made a lot of sense, especially since part of the construction walls were already pushed back. And not to mention, they were already selling Remy's Ratatouille Adventure merch. Well, much to our surprise, Disney announced that Remy's Ratatouille Adventure would now open on October 1st for Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. The only thing was that the celebration was still 7 months away, and people were shocked that the ride would now be sitting unused for this long. It was a perplexing decision to say the least, but when you sit back and analyze everything, it all makes sense. This moment in 2021 just wasn't the right time for Disney to capitalize on a brand new ride. People still weren't traveling as much, there was no international travel, and with attendance still capped, it wouldn't give the park the boost they were looking for. In Disney's mind, the current onset of COVID precautions was a good enough reason to keep a brand new ride just sitting in the dark. No one could have predicted the events of the pandemic. Remember, execs wanted to have most, if not all, of Epcot completed, plus Tron at Magic Kingdom for Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. With how slow Disney was choosing to build so they could spread costs, the only ride that was close to being ready was Ratatouille. So when the 50th came around, Disney really had no choice but to kick the celebrations off with Harmonious and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. Thank goodness this ride was finally open because World Showcase was desperate for more rides. Ratatouille offered something else the entire family was able to enjoy. The Trackless Dark ride was a great addition to the park, but the rest of Epcot was still a big construction mess. At Destination D in November of 2021, Disney announced the summer 2022 opening for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. It was also hinted that the Epcot overhaul would be fully complete by the end of 2023. The only thing was that a couple of ongoing projects weren't mentioned or acknowledged at all, like the Play Pavilion. No one knew the fate of the Gold Dome. In preparation for Cosmic Rewind's opening in May of 2022, the park map still listed the former Wonders of Life building as the future home of play. At this point, all existing permits for the project were now expired, but if it was canceled, Disney wouldn't have even put it on the new map. I mean, why draw even more attention to an abandoned building right beside Epcot's newest ride? Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind was getting an overwhelmingly positive response, so a lot more people were on this end of the park. For a ride that was originally meant to open just in time for the 50th, a 7-month delay wasn't the worst, considering there was a pandemic. In July, Disney finally filed a new permit on the Play Pavilion for a general contractor package. This would have been to finish up work inside the building. Remember, before the pandemic, sets were already being built and some of it had already been installed. Fans were so hopeful that an announcement would be made at D23 in September. But guess what? Nothing about Play was mentioned. Rumors began circulating that the project was just flat out canceled. But in November, people began seeing lights on at night in the building. Bellhop Drew on Twitter spotted what looked like a joy emoji, and there is no doubt that the color of the lights reflected the concept art. So if these tweets are any indication on the progress made, then why cancel it? Money on development had already been spent, and COVID restrictions were all gone. Maybe the future operation costs would be too much for Disney's current financial cutbacks. There were a lot of questions with zero answers. In January of 2023, Disney released the new park map, and for the first time in 3 years, the future home of Play label had been removed. Journalist Scott Gustin confirmed on Twitter that Disney was reevaluating the original concept for the Play Pavilion. The rumors of it being canceled were true. All that time and money spent on the project was just thrown down the drain. When the 50th anniversary celebration ended on March 31st, Epcot's multi-year transformation still was not complete. Even though the project was scaled back, the center of the park has been a massive construction site since 2019. Sure, COVID threw a wrench into the timeline of things, but Disney failed on delivering what they promised. The original multi-level festival center was scrapped, and instead, they spent money rebuilding half of a building they tore down in the first place. Wondrous China, the new film for the China Pavilion, has never been seen or mentioned. The Mary Poppins attraction for the UK Pavilion was postponed and shelved, and Spaceship Earth never received its reimagining. The ride is in dire need of an update, and who knows how long Wonders of Life will stay abandoned. Then, there were other projects that hadn't even been announced yet. There was a reason why Mexico and the Imagination Pavilion were on the model in the preview center. For Mexico, the rumor was that a Coco overlay was being planned, and in the Imagination Pavilion, a complete redo of the disaster that's Journey into Imagination was in the works. And boy, does that ride need some love. Neither of those projects ever saw the light of day, and who knows if they ever will. Then there was Harmonious, the brand new nighttime spectacular that was meant to tie this whole transformation together. The score was fantastic, and parts of the show looked mesmerizing, but it showed all of its cards within the first couple minutes. There was no classic Disney story either that pulled on the heartstrings, and it ended up being poorly received by a majority of guests. It also wasn't long before the barge infrastructure proved to be a maintenance nightmare. Disney spent hundreds of millions of dollars developing the show, only to pull the plug on it just after 18 months. Harmonious was a multi-million-dollar waste. Maybe Disney was leaning too far into the whole mantra of
making it more timeless, more relevant, more family, and more Disney.
Harmonious was meant to last a long time, and now they're spending even more money developing a brand new show. It's planned to debut by the end of 2023, and this will now be the show that ties the Epcot transformation together. Like Harmonious, it's also going to feature Disney songs, but it will include an original composition. That's a big part of what was missing in Harmonious. Now, bringing intellectual properties into the park isn't necessarily a bad thing. There just needs to be some sort of balance. World Showcase is actually a great example of this. As you explore the outward parts of the pavilions, there are no IPs involved. These are just the countries themselves based in reality. The fantasy doesn't come to life until you venture inside, and that's where you'll stumble upon a little chef rat or a talking snowman.
Epcot is a reassurance that we are part of something great. If we can dream it, we can do it.
Everything that we are doing is rooted in Epcot's legacy of authenticity and innovation.
It's a place where the real becomes fantastic and the fantastic becomes real.
And our goal is for Epcot to continue to inspire guests in meaningful ways, to be a place that brings people of all ages from all over the world together to dream, to explore our curiosity, to discover the wonders of our world, and to imagine the future that we can create together.
Just hearing these Imagineers speak about the transformation gave us so much hope and optimism. There was a lot to look forward to, but we did get a couple of great additions, like Guardians, Space 220, and Ratatouille. But the park's future had the potential to be something even greater. What we ended up with was a failed, misguided approach, riddled with budget cuts after wasting hundreds of millions of dollars. But who's to blame? Bob Chapek? Lead Imagineer Zach Ridley? Bob Iger? Parks Chair Josh D'Amaro? Or maybe it was all just COVID-19. In the wake of the pandemic, things were looking bleak. There were definitely roadblocks, but even though the world began to recover, Disney continued to use the financial implications of the pandemic as an excuse. This was a long-term investment for one of the most popular theme parks in the world. Disney should have just gone full steam ahead, even if it took an extra year or two so they could spread out costs. Build the new rides and add capacity. Bring a new country into World Showcase and utilize all that space. In the Japan Pavilion, there's a huge show building that's just been sitting unused since 1982. Update the older attractions and keep that creativity alive. People come to the Disney theme parks for the escape and the theming. Connections Cafe looks nice, but there's nothing really inspiring about a mall food court. Everything is starting to look the same. When Epcot's transformation is complete at the end of 2023, it will be 6 years after the first bit of construction started on the project. The entire park was built in just 3 years. Maybe one day some of these promised projects will eventually see the light of day, because as it stands, Epcot really needs them. So, what are your thoughts on Epcot's transformation? What would you like to see next? I'd love to know. Leave a comment down below to start a conversation, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video.